Welcome to the Coffee Crime Club podcast. I'm Sydney.
And I'm Ariane, just two corporate girls who love a good latte and a wild true crime story.
So clock out, pour up, and let's get into some questionable behavior that definitely did not happen on the clock.
So this is our first episode, our first case we're covering. How do you feel?
Ooh, I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited to get into it. How do you feel?
I am nervous, but let's dive right into this case. So picture this. One person feeling so wrong, so fed up that the frustration inside of them finally snaps. And before the rest of us even know what's happening, the whole city can feel the tension. There's headlines that are starting to pop up, police scanners constantly going off, and social media is in shambles. So suddenly we're watching one of the biggest manhunts California has seen unfold in real time. So tonight we'll be pulling back every layer: revenge, obsession, and mental unraveling, and even institutional failure, all of it. But this is the case of Christopher Dorner, a former LAPD police officer who went on a killing spree after claiming injustice from the very department he used to work from.
This case, it's heavy, it's complicated, it's tragic, and honestly, it's one of those stories where every part just makes you uncomfortable in a different way.
No, definitely. And we're going to break it all the way down, but we're also going to talk through the messy human parts too. I was really interested to dive into this story because I remember it happened in California. And if you don't know, I'm from California. But in high school, our school actually went on lockdown when everything was kind of happening around this case. So just to dive deeper into it, it's just really interesting to see the narrative that people were painting versus the story that it really was, you know?
I'm glad you okay, girl. All right, let's take it from the tippity top. So, June 4th, 1979, Christopher Jordan Dorner was born in New York City. His dad was a major general in the U.S. Army, so basically structured, discipline, chain of command. That was the household foundation. That's basically what was going on in his house.
Yeah, and then when Chris was in elementary school, they relocated to Southern California. Shout out to SoCal. And when he originally moved to California and he was in elementary school, all the teachers described him as like really smart, really educated, really personable. But they did say that he did used to fight often in school because he was the only black kid and he was facing a lot of racial slurs and racial profiling.
Yeah, that kind of tells you a lot. He was basically like, I'm a young black man. Like, he was one of those, he got to stand up for himself. He got to stand up for himself. And that was just kind of building at a young age. So that kind of sets you up in that mindset.
No, I definitely see that too. But in high school, he joined the La Palma Police Youth Program, which makes complete sense given what we know so far. You know, he comes from a military background, a very disciplined household. So it kind of makes sense that he thought becoming a cop was the right way to protect himself and kind of be in that more structured background that he was from.
Yeah, I feel like he believed in the badge before he was even wearing it. Like, he came from that military background. He was in the youth police force, so he already had that badge. He was wearing that badge of honor. So fast forward to college, he went to Cal State Long Beach. He was a poli-sci, an economics major. He was athletic. He was social. He was involved. He was not a troublemaker, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, girl.
No, but that's crazy though, because so far up until now, everybody's kind of describing him as really respectful, really social, not a troublemaker, kind of like a student, you would say, right? Even in 2002, he joined the Navy Reserve, and that's not something he just skated through in the military. He actually ranked really high and ended up becoming a lieutenant. So he was doing really, really well. His evaluations were solid. His service was consistent. But personally, that's when things started to get a little bit shaky. In 2007, it's reported that he got married and divorced a month later. They said that she was so embarrassed that she never talked about it to her family, and they got divorced after like 3 weeks.
Imagine.
Yeah. I mean, they did say that it was a Vegas wedding, so we don't know.
She was off that Dawn.
Not the Dawn.
She was off that Dawn. So to add on to him just having bad experiences with women, there was even reports of former ex-girlfriends posting him on the website don'tdatehimgirl.com saying, if you value your sanity, stay away from this guy. And the woman who posted him on don'tdatehimgirl.com, which is the modern day T app, or the modern day, what is that Facebook page? Are we dating the same guy?
Same person.
She described him as super paranoid and always thinking someone is out to get him. So it just seemed like he was just bad with women. And the people who are on those pages, a lot of times it's like, yeah, what's going on with you? So in 2005, he finally joins the LAPD. And this is obviously a dream that he had since he was young. And that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he joined the LAPD and they described him as a strong recruit. They basically said that he was the type of officer that any department would be happy to have, that, his performance was well and that he was just kind of like a star student, star player.
Well, kinda. His trainer Teresa reported him to be sloppy and ham-fisted, and that one time he accidentally shot himself in the hand at the police
No,
academy.
that's actually crazy.
And one time when he was responding to a man with a gun, he actually walked towards the man with the gun instead of away from, which is obviously very poor police
And they said he
training.
didn't shield himself when he walked
Yeah, like
towards the person
he's
too.
just, just towards the man. Like, come on now. And so it's kind of giving he's not as sharpshooting as he probably made up to be in his head. You know how like sometimes you have this high version of yourself, but then other people actually see what you got going on. So she reports that he was also telling her that the LAPD was discriminating against him as a black man, and that he was eventually going to sue them. And that one time she saw him crying in the patrol car. She basically described him as being unstable, angry, and just eager to see racism at every encounter. So this is kind of where you're seeing the
Yeah,
build of
I was gonna say, so this is kind of like the turn of events because up until now, everybody has described him so differently. I mean, outside of the girldon'tdatehim.com.
girl don't date him.com.
I know. I thought our generation was so original when they came out with the "Are we dating the same person?" and the T app, but they've been doing this apparently. But anyway, this is kind of the turn of events, and it kind of makes me think about when he's saying like he feels like racially discriminated against.
Yeah.
That trauma from his childhood that's kind of carrying into his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to say completely because we know like as black people that there's a lot of people, I don't want to say people against us, but there's like a lot of
there's the systemic racism, especially in the police force.
Yeah.
For sure. So there could have been some truth to what he's saying. So we can't discount. It's just a matter of we weren't there, and then did it get distorted? Like, all those questions.
Okay, so here is the moment that everything flips. After Teresa warns him about his poor performance, Dorner accuses Teresa, the training officer, of kicking a handcuffed suspect during an arrest. So the suspect Evans was accused of kicking was Christopher Gettler, and he was a schizophrenic with severe dementia.
Oh.
So Richard was a schizophrenic, and his father gave a testimony that supported Dorner's claim, and he said that after his son returned home from being arrested on July 28th, that his face was very puffy, and he asked his son what had happened, and he said that he had been kicked twice in the chest.
Wow.
So that was kind of supporting Dorner's claims.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So then he goes ahead and reports it, believing that's exactly what the LAPD trains you to do in that situation. However, he waits until 2 weeks to report it, which makes him look really questionable because he's kind of like, if this happened, why are you waiting 2 weeks to report it? You need to report it immediately the next day, So instead of backing him up, the department ends up investigating, and then they claim he made it up. The officers on the scene, Teresa, and other officers say they didn't see a kick, and Teresa says she didn't kick him. So this starts becoming a battle of Dorner versus the LAPD.
And then so they go to trial with it, and he appeals it, he fights it, and he really refuses to back down, because he genuinely feels like he did the right thing. Why he waited 2 weeks to report it,
I think that's kind of like, you waiting 2 weeks to report something, people are like, all right.
That's kind of like throwing out your credibility, because if you genuinely feel like you're acting like you're supposed to, and you're, taking the necessary steps, why not take the full protocol and report it when you're supposed to report it, right?
Exactly.
So in 2008, the LAPD Board of Rights fires him, saying he falsified that report. So ultimately, he lost the case, and he also lost his job.
I just want to bring up the trainer, Teresa, again. She was actually at the Board of Rights hearing, and she was there when he got fired. After the hearing, she recalls him staring at her like a death stare. And her lawyer described it as the stare of someone whose mind is racing 100 miles per hour. His eyes, it was just pure hatred and retaliation. And that's kind of the moment where we're feeling like the anger is starting to turn into obsession. Because of that, look, she does start carrying her Glockiana around with her everywhere. Too many Glock. Yeah, so she started carrying her Glock around with her everywhere for 6 months because she was paranoid that he was coming after her, which I would be too if somebody was staring at me like that after I just got them fired.
And then on top of that, if she's already kind of claimed that he was mentally unraveling and weeping in the car and things like that, you really don't know what he's capable of. So if I was her, I might be scared as well. But ultimately, he lost his job, he lost his identity, his future in the Navy Reserve gets impacted because remember, we had said that, he had got ranked into lieutenant. He was actually dishonorably charged after this.
Mm-hmm.
So everything he worked for is basically collapsing at this point.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the mental break probably starts to happen, especially if you believe that you told the truth and you in your heart you believe you're a sharpshooter, you believe that they're already against you race-wise, those cracks are starting to form.
Yeah.
So after Dorner is fired, he spends years trying to appeal, trying to reopen the case, and just trying to get somebody to listen. He becomes increasingly isolated and angry.
Now, those around him, and mind you, there were not a lot of people who came out and spoke about him. He didn't have a lot of intimate or close relationships, but they said that he held on to every document. He read and reread his termination letter like a puzzle, and that it kind of became his entire personality.
Entire personality is crazy. Yeah, that's not just anger. He's fixated. And remember,
Definitely
we
a
said
fixation.
he doesn't have a wife. It's giving that he didn't have that many friends. So he's just like sitting there, angry, fixated. And this is a part where I feel like mental health and mental health resources could have came into play. But as we know, men in the military, black men specifically, they're conditioned not to ask for help. So that probably had a lot to do with him isolating himself.
Yeah. So 2 years of isolation and obsession go by, but then on the night of February 4th, 2013, Dorner checks into a High View Inn and Suites, and the night manager actually described him as personable and disarming, so there was nothing alarming when he checked into the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes up to his room 116, and at 1:15 a.m. he posts an 11,000 word manifesto. To put in context, 11,000 words is 44 pages. So he posted a 44-page manifesto online. This is the moment when things kind of turn completely, honestly.
So, speaking of this 44-page manifesto, what was in this manifesto, you may ask? Between all the rambling thoughts of a man who's just had nothing but time just to sit and write and just think about it, he's listing names.
2 years.
He's calling out racism, corruption, retaliation. He writes like someone who believes he has nothing left to lose.
I mean, to be honest, he didn't have anything less to lose. He said he lost everything: his career, his reputation, and then pretty much the relationships that meant the most to him, his relationship with his mother and his sister. So, in that manifesto, like Sydney said, he threatens the officers, threatens their families, talks about a reset, and even says that civilians shouldn't help officers that are down. In the manifesto, he writes specific things like self-preservation is no longer important to me. I do not fear death as I died long ago. I was told by my mother that sometimes bad things happen to good people, but I refuse to accept that.
Mm.
And the most chilling thing I think was I never had the opportunity to have a family of my own, so I'm terminating yours.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he goes on to say, unfortunately, this is a necessary evil that I do not enjoy, but must partake and complete for substantial change to occur within the LAPD and reclaim my name. The department has not changed since the Rampart and Rodney King days. It's gotten worse. And so, him referencing Rodney King, this kind of goes back to the whole race thing.
Mm.
You know, Rodney King, we all know about the Rodney King riots and everything that happened in LA. So, this is the line where everyone realized this was not a cry for help. This is a declaration of war against the LAPD. Um, it's like every grievance he had just became a justification for violence.
No, definitely. And you can definitely tell he thought it was justified because even that line he wrote where he said something along the lines of that he was told that bad things happen to good people, but he
Mm-hmm.
refuses to accept that is like he was trying to take justice and vengeance into his own hands at this point, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so all that happens, but let's back up a few hours before he checked into that hotel and before the manifesto was actually posted online. So, police in Irvine, California respond to a call and find the bodies of Monica Kwan and her fiance Keith Lawrence. They were in a white Kia Optima and they were found with gunshots to the back of their head. So, this is the wildest part. Monica Kwan is the daughter of Randall Kwan, and Randall Kwan was the lawyer who represented Dorner in the case against the LAPD, the case that
Wow.
he lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all this is happening in tandem at the same time. So Teresa, remember, the old trainer, she hears about these murders early this morning and she immediately starts connecting the dots. She's like, wait a minute. She starts looking into Chris and realizing he owns a 9mm handgun, which was the same handgun that was used in Monica and Keith's murders. So she calls up Randall Kwan as he's grieving and then she asks him, like, hey, do you remember Chris Dorner? You know what his response was?
Hmm.
He said that guy was crazy and had hero syndrome. So around that same time she's connecting all the dots, the manifesto actually gets sent to her email and a bunch of other people at the LAPD. And it's basically from his Facebook page. The subject line is the last resort, and it was to America. So in the manifesto, as we were talking about earlier, he's just blaming a bunch of people. He's listing the people he's intending to target. So racist, LAPD's officers, who he says betrayed what he stood for. He brags about being a skilled marksman and just knowing his way around guns. And then he just gets really random and he starts praising his knee surgeon, Obama, the first lady's hairstyle. You know, he said her bob was fine.
No, that's some shit crazy.
President George W. Bush, Charlie Sheen, Chick-fil-A, Bill Cosby. So that's just like kind of telling you he was rambling. He was rambling. So then after this manifesto gets posted, the entire city goes into alert and they post that basically
No, but we
he's
have to
separate.
back up a little bit because that is really making me question where his mental state is because it's like Michelle Obama's silk press, her silk press, it do be late, but the silk press, Chick-fil-A, Charlie Sheen, Bill
Bill
Cosby,
Cosby?
yeah,
Like what are we talking about right now?
that
His
was just,
knee surgeon?
yeah,
There were so many things. It's like, wait, what are we talking about? Mind you, 44 pages, 11,000 words. At a certain point, he's just like, her bob is
literally
fine.
rambling.
I love the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, da da da. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So walk with me, y'all. Let's get everyone on the same page with the timeline because I know it does get a little confusing. But February 3rd, the murder of Monica Kwan and Keith Lawrence is widely considered the opening act of his revenge campaign, right? February 4th, Dorner posts the manifesto online and goes undetected. And this is where the city and the LAPD start to feel the storm coming as they're connecting the dots.
Yeah.
So after the murders of Monica Kwan and Keith Lawrence, Dorner was on the run and things were about to escalate. But by February 6th, he was in San Diego at a naval base point in Loma. That's where he tried to hijack a yacht planning to flee to Mexico. He tied up an 81-year-old boat owner and he tried to get the boat started, but he couldn't. And then luckily, the man was unharmed. But this incident was significant to the LAPD because this confirmed that he was still in California and wasn't able to flee.
I think the craziest part about this is that he almost didn't, like, he had so much time to think it through, but then he didn't think it through
Yeah.
because it just kind of seemed like he started being sporadic. Now he's trying to get on a boat. Now he's trying to go to Mexico. If I have 2 years to think about something, I feel like I would have everything planned out, which also I feel like goes into his mental state. If you're
Yeah.
not mentally stable, you're not necessarily thinking of every single thing. Like it was just built off of straight anger
Yeah.
instead of just like logic, like, okay, I'm gonna kill these people, but then I'm going to go to Mexico with this flight and everything
Yeah.
like that. Like he just started doing anything.
Yeah.
So
That does make sense. I didn't even think of that because, like you said, like if he had all this time to plan out exactly what he would do, why would he not plan his escape?
yeah, now he's just like boat jacking somebody, not knowing how to work the boat and stuff like that. Like, where did you think that was gonna go? So the next morning on February 7th, Dorner's violence turned toward law enforcement. Also, on the freeway in Corona, California, two LAPD officers spotted his gray Nissan Titan. From the shoulder, he opened fire with a rifle. One officer was grazed, but not killed by debris from the shots. That was just the first attack on the officers. Even though no one was killed, this was marking a terrifying new level of danger because previously he was saying, hey, I'm going to shoot y'all. So Later that same morning, Dorner also ambushed officers in Riverside, and this is where things get fatal. He pulled up behind a marked patrol car at a stoplight and fired multiple rounds through the rear window. Unfortunately, Officer Michael Crane was shot and killed at the scene, and Officer Andrew Takaias was critically injured, but he survived.
Yeah, that's crazy. So this wasn't even like random chaos. It was deliberated and it was kind of like a calculated ambush to kind of strike fear
Mm.
into all officers across, LA.
Yeah.
But kind of how I had mentioned earlier. So this is in Riverside where this shooting happened. I went to school in Riverside County, and this is when not only was the LAPD under alert, but like everybody in the area was on alert. And then our school went on lockdown for a couple hours too.
Remind me where Riverside County is in relation to LA County in relation to Orange County.
So LA County and Orange County is like more up north, and Riverside County is like 45 minutes.
Is that heading towards San
south.
Diego?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm from Orange County. We some Cali girls in here, y'all.
I be forgetting you were born in Orange County.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, she's an Orange County and
Laguna Hills. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, basically it was widespread panic. The authorities were on edge. And actually what happened was, like you were saying, wait, did you? We're gonna have to cut this part out. Did you already say the part about how they?
No, I'm about to go into
Okay, because I was about to say that.
Sorry, y'all.
Bloopers!
The tension was still high after that Riverside shooting. And then later that day in Torrance, because everybody was so on alert and there was just so much confusion around the world and panic, it got to law enforcement as well. So mistaken identity shootings started happening across LA County. So 2 women delivering newspapers in a blue Toyota Tacoma were fired upon by the LAPD officers who mistook their truck for Dorner's Nissan. They survived, but they were injured. This is actually crazy to me though, because we talked about him having a gray Nissan Tacoma.
No, it's a gray Nissan Titan. And so it's a completely different car.
So gray Nissan Titan.
And they're fired into a blue Toyota Tacoma with 2 women inside.
Right. So it's like, this just goes to show you how panicked everybody is. Like, nobody's moving thorough anymore. No, everybody's just like...
Anybody with a pickup truck.
Yeah.
This is a bad day to have a pickup truck that's like
Very
even remotely close to the color of gray.
So then the second incident that same day... A surfer driving a pickup was rammed and shot at by officers from another agency after his vehicle was mistaken for Dorner's. He walked away unharmed.
They were really on edge because they were just doing anything.
No, like these incidents show you how chaotic the manhunt kind of became. But fear had everyone on edge, and Dorner wasn't responsible for these shootings. I think that's important to note. He wasn't the one who was carrying out these shootings.
And those are 3 people. Those are 3 people that could have gotten killed that had nothing to do with the shootings just because they were driving a car that wasn't even the same type of car he was driving. But like, thank God nothing happened to them too terrible. So February 8th through the 12th, he disappeared into the Big Bear area, which is a mountain. So search teams combed through forests, ski areas, cabins, but somehow he managed to stay undetected, which I think is a little crazy because it's like how he shot at the officers in the car and he was able to get away, and then somehow he escapes the mountains, and they're like, you know what I'm saying?
That's kind of what I'm wondering as well, because I'm like, okay, it's not like he was doing these shootings very discreetly. It was like moving in silence. It was like these were very chaotic scenes. However, I think what a lot of people are forgetting is that he's a Navy lieutenant. He's a very skilled as well.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe he does possess those skills. He clearly did to get up out of there.
And then refresh me on my geography again, if you remember. Where is
I'm not good at geography.
Where is San Bernardino County in relation to? Because they're talking about snow.
Yeah.
In the snow. So how do we go from south?
So San Bernardino is more like in the mountains. So it's like a canyon you have to go up.
Is it far from LA?
No, it's probably like 45 minutes maybe.
But it was snowing? Or there was
Big Bear is like the colder part of California. It's not always snowing in Big Bear though.
It's like north. It's like the geography is, I'm like, wait a minute.
Not my thing.
We were at the beach and now we're in the snow and now we're in a cabin. Like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, he just went all around the world. So yeah, basically he was sheltering in vacant cabins. He was evading capture. He was laid up with Smokey the Bear, and he was cooling it. And officers just didn't really have a clue where he was at. But
Mm-hmm.
then he messed up. On February 12th, Dorner carjacked a local man. He stole another vehicle and then barricaded himself in a cabin near Big Bear Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when he carjacked, that set off alarms. What followed was the most intense but last gunfight of the manhunt. So, Dorner engaged deputies with a .22-3 rifle. Detective Jeremiah McKay was killed in this shootout, and Deputy Alex Collins was also gravely wounded in multiple areas: the face, the arm, and the chest. So, law enforcement responded really fast to the shootout. So he's in the cabin and they're outside the cabin, after they hunted him down. And they are using pyrotechnic gas rounds, the kinds that are known to start fires, into the cabin. And obviously the cabin ignited super fast.
Mm-hmm. So this kind of standoff was going on for hours, but then inside, Donor took his own life. And by the time firefighters arrived, the cabin was fully engulfed in flames.
And just like that, the manhunt ended. The terror was done. The city could finally breathe. But at the end of the day, he still left um, a large mark on the city
No, definitely.
based on everything.
And I remember when this case kind of had came out, there was a lot of different narratives and stories around this case, especially in the Black community, because Black people, we sometimes feel an injustice against the justice system, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So even to the point, like when he died, many people and the public and media kind of speculated that the police had something to do with the fire and purposely kind of set the cabin on fire.
And obvious, and there's no way that we could have known,
Right.
but I could see where that could be a possibility, because given the state of probably the way the police officers were feeling, they've had their friends and colleagues shot and killed. He's after them. Like, we don't know what really happened. Some of the public felt the information was withheld to make the operation look cleaner and more justified.
And they said that some of the police had gave conflicting statements about whether or when Donor shot himself in the cabin too. So even like after the manhunt has come to an end, there's still a bunch of
So what, they think that someone else shot him, maybe?
No, I don't think it was ever questioned that he shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I don't think it was ever questioned whether somebody else shot him, but I think they were questioning if the LAPD purposely tried to set him on fire.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think that was kind of the big thing, because it's confirmed that he did shoot himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they go on to say the investigation says he acts alone. Public wasn't too sure about that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people condemned him instantly. Others didn't agree with his violence. But once again, when we were explaining the injustices in the police department, people understood the pain behind where he was coming from. This was a man who wanted to be a police officer his whole life. Perhaps he wasn't the best police officer, but he felt like he was doing the right thing by reporting a crime, and then he gets thrown out. No one's hearing him out, and then he goes on a rampage. So that's kind of like what makes the story so complicated. It touches the tragedy on every side.
Mm-hmm.
The victims, the families, the officers, Dorner himself. It kind of makes me question what would have happened if he got help.
Right.
Or if someone just were to listen to what he was saying.
Yeah, and that does bring up a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because kind of throughout the case, back then when I was hearing all the narratives, I never really dug deep into the case and really read, but there was a lot of different things kind of going on that brought him to this point. Like, he did try and do the legal appeal and fight, but he didn't get the justice he thought he deserved. So this is kind of what he turned to.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate from all sides, though, because I do think it's also very sad, like innocent people losing their lives, like the daughter of the lawyer, like the random police,
her fiance, yeah, exactly. Almost those 3 people that they shot with like the car. So yeah, at the end of the day, for Dorner, hurt became obsession, obsession became violence. So
yeah, and some innocent people definitely had to pay the price, unfortunately.
All right, guys, that's another case. Actually, not another case. That is our first case
Case.
closed. Yay! Oh my gosh. That is our first case closed for the Coffee Crime Club podcast. Thank you for hanging out with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, send to your work bestie or just your bestie, and then also let us know suggestions you have for the next episode. And we look forward to hearing back from you soon.
Yes, until next time, keep your coffee strong and your alibi stronger.
Yay! Cheers.